The Ducks play terrible and they lose in a shootout. The Ducks actually play pretty decently and wind up losing in regulation. What's going on? We'll explore this on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, Take 5, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason J.D. Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade. A reminder that this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we got a lot to get to today, and we're going to keep this one short. This is going to be a double header day because we're going to do this one here. Next one will be hopefully at Acrisure Arena. There might be 2 episodes from Acrisure Arena since there's a game Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday night. So just want to keep you posted as to what's going on there. All right, I'm just going to get right into it because this has been frustrating watching this team. I mean, it's frustrating trying to record an episode. As I mentioned, take 5, maybe not 5, but yeah, multiple things have been frustrating doing this podcast. None more frustrating than having one of the crappiest games against the Los Angeles Kings somehow taking it to a shootout. Like, the Ducks had a chance at this game and still blew it. Or maybe they won. Maybe they're still going for that top pick. Who knows? But this is just a bad pattern all around for the last 5 years of this Ducks team, or really the past 6 years. And part of my big takeaway has to do with defense. Defense has been atrocious for the Anaheim Ducks at times. There have been misassignments. There have been just lazy back checking has been a big part of this too. The back check, especially the last few weeks, has been hit or miss, but mostly miss. And unfortunately, some of this has to do with some of the younger guys that are just not back checking for a full 60 minutes. That aspect of the game is very important. Like, you cannot let your opponents just glide into the zone and do whatever they want. The back check, unfortunately, has been awful. It has been completely awful. The number of high danger chances that the Ducks are allowing, I mean, they're averaging something like 16, 17 high danger chances per game. That's way too many when the Ducks are only getting like 5 or 6 or 7 themselves. They've got to limit those high danger chances whenever they can. And whenever they allow that many high danger chances, usually they're going to lose the game, as we've seen most of this season. So the lack of back checking, the ease into getting into the high slot area or the low slot area or anywhere that is high danger has been appalling. I look at least one goal from the Nashville Predators game where they just completely lost their crap along the blue line, and the back checking, it was non-existent. That's when you know it's bad, is when it has completely disappeared and you leave your goalie high and dry. I felt bad for Lukáš Dostal against the Predators. The Ducks had a solid game for the most part, but allowing Nashville to just get whatever they wanted for a few minutes. I mean, that's all it took, was just a few minutes of allowing Nashville to get a couple of not easy goals, but a couple of decent goals. And that was pretty much the game against Nashville. The game against the Kings, John Gibson was left high and dry a lot during that game. John Gibson saved their asses on that game. You know how many saves John Gibson got on this game? 48. He got 48 saves against the Los Angeles Kings, which means, yes, they allowed 50 shots on net again. We've seen this happen, unfortunately, time and time again. This is, sad to say, the second time that the Ducks allowed 50 or more shots on net. Now, at least we are 58 games through, and this, I will say, is the improvement for the Ducks. They improved on something. They've only allowed 40 plus shots 7 times this season. This time last year, they had allowed 40 plus shots 27 times at this time last season. Yes, I checked the math. I checked comparing this season to last season. So at least there's a market improvement of sorts. But they went back to their old tricks. And most of those 40 plus times have come in the last month and a half. So in the last month and a half, they've gone back to allowing a plethora of shots again. I mean, nothing compares to the 57 shots allowed to the Maple Leafs. And somehow that was only a 1-goal game. And somehow this was only a 1-goal game. So maybe the Ducks should allow that many shots and they will have some decent... No, that's not how it works. That is absolutely not how any of this works. Believe me, when you're allowing that many shots and allowing that many high danger chances, you're going to get burned. And that's exactly what happened to the Ducks. They got burned twice over the weekend. So bad. Then we got to talk about... I talked about the back check. I talked about the shots. I haven't even talked about some of the dumb penalties that the Ducks have been taking and letting themselves get down a man multiple times in a game. I mean, not so much against Nashville. I mean, yes, a little bit against Nashville where they allowed some chances, but to the Los Angeles Kings, I mean, you cannot allow that many chances and expect the Kings not to score because that's what happened twice. The Kings scored 2 power play goals. And look what happened there. Yeah, I know, puppy. You're not getting on the show today. Yeah, she's running away because I'm yelling here. You just can't allow those kind of dumb penalties to happen throughout the game. Just can't. All right, we're going to head to the first intermission. I'm going to talk about the last couple of games that took place over the weekend. This is a few days ago, but there's been no Ducks games anyway, so what else is there to talk about? Oh yeah, there is other stuff to talk about, like trade stuff, but that'll be on a separate episode. We'll get to that on the other side. Now a brief word from Gametime. And folks, if you haven't tried the Gametime app yet, what are you waiting for? Because I hate having frustrating ticket experiences in the past where I couldn't find good seats or there was way too many stupid fees. But don't worry about that when you buy your tickets from Gametime because they have their all-in pricing. They also have last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals for upcoming events in your area, including concerts, and of course Ducks games themselves. See the view from the seat before you buy it as well, and only takes 2 taps and you are in. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're also brought to you by FanDuel. That is right. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, exclusive lines like when will LeBron hit 40,000 points? My goodness, that's a lot of points. And much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Let's talk about the last couple of games, shall we? The last 2 games between the Ducks and their Western Conference foes. First off, we got to talk about the game against Los Angeles Kings. I'll admit I did not watch the Ducks broadcast of this, mainly because of what had happened the previous game. I'll admit that if it is a Kings-Ducks game, I will usually listen to the Kings feed because I feel like I get a lot more from that feed, or I learn a lot more just on different moves from watching the Kings feed. I'm sorry, Ducks fans that are still fans of those two. Like, I get it. If you think, oh, listen to the Ducks feed, like, what are you doing? You cover a Ducks podcast and you're not listening to the Ducks broadcast? Look, there's a reason that the Ducks broadcast team was ranked 31st in the NHL. if I have the choice, I would rather listen to the opponent's feed rather than the Ducks feed. I really do learn a lot more. And if I don't have that available, then I will try to listen to Duckstream because that is worlds better than the TV broadcast. I'm sorry, but got to give more credit to Steve Carroll and Emerson Edom and Alexis Downey. They do a tremendous job. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about this stupid game itself. The Ducks just allowed way too many shots on goal throughout the game. The first period was, at one point, I thought the Kings had gotten 20 shots, but they took one away. So it was 19-11 in favor of the Los Angeles Kings. But hey, you know what? The Ducks did a thing. They got a power play goal. That's right, they got a power play goal from Jakob Silfverberg. A nice goal at that. But then Kevin Fiala scored on the power play. That one got me mad. That's the one that got me mad because Adrian Kempe has his way with the Anaheim Ducks, especially John Gibson. He always has. Kempe loves playing against the Ducks. And of course, he got the primary apple on that one because they're all covering him. And he found a much more open Kevin Fiala. So, okay, fine. 1-1 after one period. That's fine. Second period is when things got a little bit BS crazy. We saw a lot of, rough stuff happening. You had that little tussle between players, and then somehow Frank Vetrano goes in the box. That was dumb. That was really dumb. That's your best player. That is your absolute best player, and you get suckered into the extra penalty. Oh, that one ticked me off. It really did. That was such a lack of discipline. The only good thing about that was that Sam Carrick got a shorthanded goal. Sam Carrick is really good at that, by the way, is getting those shorties. This is not the first time we've seen this happen. This won't be the last time you've seen this happen. Sam Carrick on a nifty feed from Adam Henrique. This was a nice one, by the way. Sam Carrick, well, first off, this was on a kind of deflected, just a little bit of a, not poke check, but it was an active stick is what it was. And Henrique poking the puck away just somehow gathered control. And all of a sudden you had a 2-on-1. We had 2-on-1 where you had Rico on the left side, Carrick on the right side, and Henrique made the pinpoint perfect pass right to Sam Carrick at the perfect time. The perfect time. If it was a 10th of a second later or a 10th of a second before, I don't think that pass gets to Carrick on time. And we're talking about a 2-1 loss in regulation. But as it was, Carrick, with the shorty, gave the Ducks the lead. That was nice. And then another stupid penalty happened right after that. This one drove me nuts. Pierre-Luc Dubois drew the penalty apparently. This was a stupid call. This was such a ticky-tack stupid. The refs probably had no business calling that one penalty. Yeah, it was one of those. A little tap, and Pierre-Luc Dubois just went, and fell over. Yeah, great job acting, P.L. Dubois. Yeah, that's the best acting he's going to do all season. And what do the Kings do on the power play? They score a goal, tie the game up at 2 goals apiece. This one, just John Gibson can't really do much. Drew Doughty with just a wicked shot. And there was some good screens. I'll admit there was some good screens on that one. John Gibson was, pun intended, kind of a dead duck there. So that made it 2-2. Third period, that was probably one of the Ducks' worst periods. They were lucky that the Kings did not win the game in regulation. So lucky. John Gibson played his butt off. I mean, where's the taser? Where's the taser on that one? And then somehow we wind up in a shootout? What the heck is going on here? But in the third period, something really bad happened. Troy Terry took a massive hit, And he tried to give it a go, but he just couldn't do it. So he was in the locker room and he missed the rest of the game. We still have no word what exactly happened with Troy Terry there. But, he was out for that game, which sucked. And then he was out for the following game, which sucked even more. But Troy Terry, for what it's worth, I mean, he tried. He really, really tried. Troy Terry was out there for some of the end of the game. And, it just didn't happen. Just did not happen. That whole thing just got me really upset. I mean, I hate seeing any player leave the ice like that. But Troy Terry, yeah, that one was painful. Terry was out there for one or a couple of short shifts in the third. And Troy was out there towards the end of the game. But after that, nothing. So at the time, I thought, okay, maybe he's fine. Turns out he's not. And we still don't have an exact word on what's going on with Troy Terry there. And in shootout, well, overtime, first off, was all Kings. All Kings. And then we went to a shootout. P.L. Dubois slipped it past Johnny Gibson. McTavish, I thought, had a decent shot, didn't get it. And then Leo Carlson, I got to talk about this for a second. Leo Carlson had just a silky smooth goal in the shootout. That was great. But then Trevor Moore scored. Nolan scored in the third round. Kings won in the shootout. There you go. So, I mean, at least Troy Terry returned in overtime, so I thought that was a decent sign, but we don't know. All right, I'm up against it, so I'm going to talk about the Nashville game after the intermission. Stay locked in. Now a brief word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience underlined. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with JD Hernandez. Let's talk about that stupid Nashville game, shall we? Because this one I listened to on Duckstream, did not want to watch and listen to the broadcast. So I actually tuned in to Ducks stream on this one. Steve Carroll does a great job. Once again, love the guy. Love the guy so much. This one, I don't think it was all Nashville. I mean, Emerson Edom did mention a few times on the broadcast that the Ducks did a much better, like they actually looked at tape, supposedly, and did a much better job neutralizing the Predators in getting the puck into the zone. And that was one thing that Edom praised the Ducks for, was Nashville had a harder time getting into their offensive zone than against the Kings the previous night. And Edom did say, yeah, the Ducks did look a little bit tired towards the end of the game, and they were kind of lagging a little bit. I mean, that's what's going to happen when it's a back-to-back. We've seen this happen. And they just had a part of the third period where they just lost it. I mean, it was 1-1 after two periods. The Ducks had momentum going into the third period. I mean, Isaac Lundestrom, a nice goal to tie it up at 1. But then third period, I mean, even Carroll acknowledged it, that when you're on the back end of a back-to-back and the start time is earlier, you don't have time for a morning skate. So the Ducks literally played their game late into Saturday night, went home, rested a little bit, and went right back at it without a morning skate, without anything else happening. And it showed. It really showed in the third period. They were just lacking something. I mean, Philip Forsberg scored, and then Michael McCarron scored, bang, bang. It was that part of the game that I mentioned in the first segment where the back check was pretty much non-existent, where they were just allowing Nashville to have their way, and that's exactly what happened. This was not a full 60 minutes of hockey, but they did look a little bit just ragged towards the end of the game. Predators won 4-2 in the not so god-awful gold jerseys. Yes, I said it, the god-awful gold. Ugh, Nashville. All right, I do want to mention one thing before we wrap up. I do want to end on a good note, so I'm going to do that here. On Saturday's game against the Los Angeles Kings, there was a really cool moment before the game, and this has to do with Helene Elliott, who is the longtime writer of the Los Angeles Times. She's been covering hockey events for God knows how long. She's in the Hall of Fame. She's won the Elmer Ferguson Memorial Award. So she's done it all. She's covered Stanley Cups. She's covered Olympics. She's probably one of the best. I mean, not probably. She is one of the best writers out there. I was going to say probably the best writer out there. I mean, there's some excellent hockey writers out there, but Helene is amongst like the Mount Everest of hockey writers. And she's been at this for about 4 decades. And she recently announced that she was going to take a buyout from the LA Times. So she's in fact not retiring full-time, but she is off the full-time beat with the LA Times. And before the game on Saturday, both the Ducks and the Kings presented her with some nice framed newspaper clippings. From the Kings side, they showed when the Kings won the Stanley Cup, and this was the one in 2012. When I saw the newspaper, I'm like, oh, that's the one from 2012. I remember that one. Then it showed the LA Times from 2007 when the Ducks won it. And that was a really nice frame job too. And that one was also signed by the Ducks captain at the time, Niedermeyer. That was really cool looking. And Helene was just over the moon on that one. She loved that both teams gave her the credit, like all around. So got to give props to both the Ducks and the Kings for having that moment pre-game. Super, super cool. So there you go. Just wanted to give my stick taps to Helene Elliott. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. Once again, thank you all for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. You can follow me on X at StimpyJD. The show's X is at LO_Ducks. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. So greatly appreciated. We'll be back later tonight or later today with another episode, so stay tuned for that. And we'll also have Goals Thursday tomorrow, and then our final episode of the week on Friday. But also, we're likely going to have an episode over the weekend because of the schedule the Ducks have coming up. So just want to keep you all posted on that. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later tonight. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.